So the Shikishima has been out for quite a long time at this point when I'm recording this video, and it's always a ship that I've considered to be quite decent overall, and at times just one of the best ships that I can possibly play, and at other times the worst battleship in the entire game. It is an enigma to me, and I kind of want to go over why and whether or not you personally should look towards spending your steel on it, because with this being a steel ship, 32,000 steel, I get asked all the time on whether or not I should, or when I say I mean you, should spend your steel on it, because people, they just like to ask, other players' opinions on what they should buy, and that's a fair question. So hopefully this video can help people answer, whether or not this is something that they're worth getting.
Welcome
Do they
to
want
the
to maybe
Cum
spend their
Zone.
steel on the Borgone? Are they more interested in the Stalingrad? Should they wait for the Austin? All these types of questions that people have, because if you're not a high league clan battles player, you won't have the steel to buy all of these ships, so it's perfectly reasonable. And that's kind of why I want to talk about the Shikishima. Now, looking at the Shikishima, you might be first confusing this for a Yamato, and that is perfectly fair, because the Shikishima is one of Wargaming's, I guess, copy-paste boats. They've done this a few times, where they'll basically copy-paste a ship and change the guns, and then call it a different premium altogether. They did this with the Montana and the Ohio. They've done this with the Yamato and the Shikishima. They're gonna probably do it again with the Kurfürst. They did it with the Kremlin, stuff like that. So it's happened multiple times. There's only really two differences between the Shikishima and the Yamato, and that is all in the armament, the main guns, as well as the secondaries, or AA. And let's start with the main guns. The Yamato houses 460mm guns, 9 of them total in 3 triple turrets. The Shikishima, on the other hand, houses 510mm guns. It has 6 of them total in 3 double turrets. The exact same arrangement as the Yamato, 2 turrets in the front, 1 in the back, and that's really the only difference on the main guns. I'll get back to those in a second, but the other differences are the AA, which the Shikishima has more of to work with, and better secondary power. However, I wouldn't really recommend building secondaries with these ships, because secondaries in the new patch are quite terrible, and with the Shikishima, you don't want to get close to other people for a lot of reasons. As far as the main guns are concerned, they are very similar to the Yamato, better in certain aspects, of course, and weaker in others. Overall, the Yamato has a higher broadside strike, with more shells that it pumps out. Each turret of the Yamato is doing slightly more damage. However, on a per shell basis, the Shikishima is hitting incredibly hard. Shikishima shells hit for 19,400. For comparison, the Yamato hits for 14,800. That is a very large difference. That's over 4,000 alpha per shell. To put this into perspective, the second highest alpha AP in the game is the USN battleship's 18-inch guns, which hit for 15,750. So clearly, the Shikishima is above everybody else, and it's not even close. However, because you only have 6 shells, it still isn't the same in terms of broadside weight, and you are basically shooting the exact same overmatch capability as a Yamato, whereas the Shikishima overmatch is 35 and the Yamato overmatch is 32. That is functionally the same in the game. So the Shikishima really isn't gaining a benefit for having the bigger caliber, like say something like Conqueror and Thunder would have, whereas Conqueror can't overmatch 30mm, but Thunder can. So really, you're just paying for higher alpha shells, but less broadside weight. That's really the only benefit that you get for playing the Shikishima over the Yamato. And the other issue that you have with the Shikishima is that it is a 6-gun battleship, and that by itself creates a very large amount of problems. Whereas the Georgia gets super cruiser dispersion to make up for its lack of guns, and gets an 11% dispersion bonus on every salvo fire due to it being a USN battleship. The Shiki does not benefit from
Welcome
either
to
of
the
those.
Cum
It
Zone.
uses standard battleship dispersion, and does not have any special access to, say, like Yamato Legendary that the Yamato gets. It just gets the standard slot 3 upgrade for dispersion. And this can make the Shikishima quite unpredictable. Now, there is one upside The Shikishima is a sniper. Like most Japanese battleships, it is kind of like the Slava in that it does not lose its dispersion as far as other battleships go when it gets further away from a target. So, like ships like, say, the Slava, they're still quite accurate at long range, which means that the Shikishima benefits massively from the Deadeye skill and the Deadeye meta itself. In fact, in that chart that I had on the Slava video itself, the Slava benefits the most from Deadeye in terms of how much closer it makes the target in terms of its dispersion. The Shikishima actually benefits the second most of all battleships. And I will show some clips in this video of what Deadeye Shikishima can do, because it is absolutely disgusting. But the problem that you run into is that if you get close in a Shikishima, your guns are all but worthless. And I am not even remotely kidding. If you have to get close in this boat at all, you are in for an incredibly frustrating time. The dispersion is going to be quite unbearable, and because you don't have that Deadeye bonus, and because of that as well, you're only really ever able to use 4 guns. Being a Yamato hull, you're limited to that cheek armor and that very vulnerable citadel protection, which means you kind of have to sit bow in all the time, and you only get 4 shells to fire at people. And when you're rocking battleship dispersion, it's not exactly a fun thing to be doing. So the Shiki is definitely a ship that you want to sit at range, and it is a sniper. You have to try to snipe with this boat. It's very good at sniping if you know how to connect your shots, and you will decimate people's health bars if they give you broadside. One of the advantages of this 20-inch gun is that it has incredibly good AP pen at long ranges compared to other battleships. Other than the Slava, once you hit 18 kilometers, the Shikishima has better AP pen than everything. And keep in mind, AP pen is a statistic that is much better for a ship at longer range than it is at close range. Because at close range, you don't care. You're going to citadel them regardless. But at long range, ships start to shatter. Think of something like a Montana and how often you'll see it shatter on broadsides, broadside battleships, like say the Kremlin, when it gets like 15 kilometers away from people. That's not an issue you have with the Shikishima. So a lot like the Slava, it just punches people and just, you know, always basically does a lot of damage with every shell it hits. The problem just being, you're going to have a hard time hitting those shells in the first place, just because of how inaccurate the ship can be. All in all, with the Shikishima, there's really not much to say about it, because it's just so similar to the Yamato, and everybody knows what the Yamato is like. If you get a fight where you have a 32mm clad battleship, you kind of just tend to win. And if you get a ship that is pretty good armor, like say a Kurfürst or a Kremlin, and they get close to you, you lose, and there's no other way around that. You just kind of can't beat them. I would say that in my personal experience, there are a couple of reasons why I personally prefer the Shikishima over the Yamato. The first one is the AA. If you guys have ever been caught out by a carrier in the battleship, you know that there is basically nothing you can do about it. And this goes for every battleship that is at tier 10. Except for maybe the Bourgogne, because that one moves so fast, like the Georgia, that it defends itself really well if it's able to maneuver. But usually when you're caught out by a carrier in a battleship, you are just running around trying to do turns and hope that the guy doesn't hit you. And the only real mitigation that you have as that battleship is to shoot down enough planes so the guy cannot get second and third strikes off on you with the same squad. Now, this doesn't apply to the FDR, because that is the enigma, but in situations where, say, the Yamato is getting bombed over and over again, it cannot protect itself. Whereas the Shikishima, well, yes, it'll still get hit by that first strike. Maybe the second strike is coming in at half capacity. There might not even be a third strike at all. Whereas with the Yamato, you just get struck over and over and over and over again. And that's one thing I really like, because I'm very vocal in my dislike of aircraft carriers in this game. They're clearly overpowered, and if that's something that you disagree with, I don't care. I'm not really here to debate people's opinions on CVs. It's 2 years after the rework. The only thing you can really do is just try to weather them at this point. So, the Shikishima does that a little bit better. The other thing, and the other reason why I prefer the Shikishima, is that it's a premium. And that means I can take Yamamoto, the special IJN commander, and put him on this boat. Whereas I can't do that with the Yamato unless he's always on the Yamato. but I usually keep Yamamoto on the Kitakaze or the Harugumo, one of those two. And so being able to just switch him freely over to the Shikishima is a massive advantage for the ship itself. And those are really the only main things that I would really pick the Shikishima over. So if you're somebody who absolutely loves the Yamato and has so much steel to burn that they want a premium Yamato that doesn't really differ that much from the Yamato itself, then Shikishima's the boat for you. If you're somebody who doesn't like the Yamato, I can guarantee you, you are not going to like the Shikishima, because it is a Yamato. It plays exactly like a Yamato, it just has subtle differences that make it a different experience slightly than the Yamato. But all of the same strengths and weaknesses are there. You lack really any citadel protection. Your armor overall is quite weak. Your tergiverse is atrociously bad. Your concealment is just standard. It's the exact same. Turning circle, exact same. Rudder shift, exact same. Your 32mm overmatch, the biggest strength of the Yamato, it's still there. The Shikishima just has one other ship it can overmatch. That's the Riga, the tier 9 Russian heavy cruiser. That's really not that big of a deal. Not enough to really care. It's one ship, and you're not going to be fighting it that often. But all in all, I do think that the Shiki is worth it if you really want that premium experience. But if that isn't something that you're searching for, just skip the Shikishima. It's completely out of the grasp of reality, and it's pointless to get, because you're getting something that you could just get out of a tech tree. It's like buying an RP Yamato for $140. Like, you are getting the exact same experience that you'll get out of the tech tree itself. You're just paying a premium for getting the premium on top of that. So depending on how much that is worth to you, as far as how much steel you're able to get, is going to be my recommendation for the Shiki. And usually I tell people to avoid it. Typically, when people ask me what is a good steel ship that's available right now, I will tell them to get the Bourgogne. The Bourgogne, as far as battleships go, has been a powerhouse ship since it released. It got stronger with 10.0, and it is still good. So that ship is one that hasn't been power crept through the test of time, even though it's like 32mm of armor all around, and it's just an all-sauce clone, but it's tier 10. You'd think it would be bad, but it's actually fantastic. And that would be my ship recommendation. I might do a review on that one going forward in the future, but for now I just wanted to cover the Shiki because I've been playing a lot of it recently for the Heisen missions, which I will be getting today, and getting a video out soon on the next 2 days for the Heisen, because that boat has... I've seen a lot of it, but I haven't played it yet myself, and I want to make something on that. So I was playing a lot of Shikishima to get the damage, and I got the games that I wanted to create a review on it, since a lot of people asked me about it. But other than that, guys, there's really not much else to say. It's a Yamato. It's a bigger version of the Yamato, and you are getting what you pay for. So other than that, guys, take care. I will be back with another video soon. We did just pass 420 subscribers, which is kind of nice. So if you guys could hit the sub button down below, it does help out quite a lot. But other than that, guys, I will talk to you all later. Have a good one. I'm out.